Oops. So, can you hear me now? I don't know how this happened, but it was my mic was muted. Okay. Anyway, I just said all of your names and none of you heard any of it. So, just want to say thank you for joining me live here in the chat. Um, I know, Jeff. Um, it's so basically, yeah, my mic was muted here in StreamYard, so not really sure how that happened, but it did. And thank you guys for, pointing that out to me whenever I'm a buffoon. You're awfully good about saying, "Hey," showing me some grace. Appreciate it. And yes, David, I don't know how that empty one of the things that I said that you couldn't hear, I don't know how that empty post happened any more than I know, why I was muted. So, yeah, there seems to be a pattern developing here, and I'm a little worried. But anyway, I really wanna Yeah, I got it, man. Uh, hey, Daniel, good to see you. So yeah, basically everyone in the chat, I just gave you a shout out, and none of you heard it. But for tonight's show, what I wanted to do is just kind of promote our Facebook group, the Keys of the Rosi Cross and the Ghosts of Bacon. Um, the original group was called the Ghosts of Bacon, and we were, pushing up to 500 members when, I lost control of the group and my account was hacked. And so what I want to do is try to grow our numbers back up to that amount. A lot of the people who were in that original group never, came over. I posted multiple posts saying, "Hey, please switch over to the new group," and we lost, some members through that. So what I really want to do tonight is highlight, what we have going on in our group, the Keys of the Rosy Cross, and it all comes from you. Um, as many of you know, I've been very busy here lately. I'm trying to finish. I'm about halfway through, I think, of my Oak Island book. It's tentatively called Oak Island, uh, the Rosicrucian Garden of Eden Decrypted. If anyone has a better suggestion, by all means, I'm all ears. And so I'm going to be moving forward with that. And so I was never very good at being on social media in the first place. I'm not very present. I don't spend a lot of time on it. But one of the things that I know that I need to do is pay more attention to our Facebook group. And luckily for me, we have so many really knowledgeable members, people who are amazing researchers and posting their findings and different little tidbits that they find along the way um, in our group that I, I don't need to necessarily post anything, and I haven't been, but all of you have been just kind of like carrying doing all the heavy lifting there in the group for me, and I really appreciate it because the quality of your posts are just phenomenal, and I don't um, have enough time to always get on there and acknowledge that and give you all the kudos you deserve. So, um, yeah, Tom, captioning won't work. um, so anyway, what I thought I would do is actually show you some of the posts from our Facebook group tonight. And so there are so many good posts. And by the way, it looks like a lot of you enjoyed um, our new header here with our B and the F. And here he is, the key. And we have the this moon actually comes from the portrait of Sir Walter Raleigh um, that I use in my research. So, yeah, I put that together, and I thought we needed a little new uh, little header here, cover page. So, just starting here at the top, um, and so here's the infamous empty post. Again, a lot of people liked it, a lot of comments, and of course, one of them from my friend David Neeson. Finally, an empty post tonight. I can't wait. All right. So, and skip past our things. What I really wanted to highlight this evening is this post. It's been up for 11 hours, as you can see, in the Keys to the Rosi Cross group and the Ghosts of Bacon. And this comes to us from none other than our friend Daniel Spino, um, and the Oak Island Compendium with Charlotte. And so here we have the interview that Daniel did with our good friend David Neeson. And if you haven't seen this yet, I highly, highly recommend that you go there and you read this. If you're not a member of the group, please join, which is the whole purpose of obviously the show tonight. But if you're not a member, still go over to the Oak Island Compendium. Daniel and Charlotte have been doing an amazing job. Uh, you know, uh, taking over the site and updating it, and so it's still there. It's still going strong, and can't I don't have enough good things to say about that. So there's that one. We also get things like this, and this is from my friend Kurt Woodbixon, and this is a post about uh, the movie Hamnet, and here we have once again Shakespearean information coming out, and these kinds of posts do everything about it's all about this idea of sharing our discoveries and encouraging people to seek out more info. And it's a film by Spielberg, so obviously the quality is going to be there. Again, great post and update from Curtis. Appreciate you. And Z, of course, one of our top contributors and a group expert and one of my dear and trusted admins. Z keeps me um, on target here, and so here we have. This is just one example of the kinds of things that Z contributes. She is a consummate researcher, and Z, you're constantly out there, tracking down new information. Uh, and the best part is the thing I love most about Z's work is that she'll learn from anyone and everyone, and she will go to all of the different Baconian sites, but also look into the Edward de Vere sites and those kinds of things just to learn. And the amount of knowledge that you have and share Z is formidable and very, very valued. So here she has a video that she found with a great explanation of the English royal family's succession. Obviously, we're talking about the Stuart line there, and it's a great video. Everyone needs to watch it. Uh, Again, here we have another contribution about Elizabeth I and how she dressed and how she appears in many of these portraits. Here's uh, another one of David's posts regarding the science when it comes to Oak Island and the date palm fiber that was found there. We now know it was date palm fiber. And again, another really cool video that Z posted the other day on the 1611 King James Bible. Wonderful video. And like another one. And again, another great contribution from our friend David Neeson. Here we have one from none other than our friend John Edwards. Um, and if you're not aware, John is just an absolute lover of old books. And when in especially rare books, obviously that's one of the things he's most famous for, with his appearance on Oak Island and the rare books that he was able to obtain. And so really great stuff. And when we click on see more, there's always a lot more information. We have the best researchers and the most informed group, I think, on the internet. Here's one from Rachel. Here's a wonderful question where people will pose questions. Here's an excerpt from the King James Bible, first edition, and we have Rachel asking a really great question there that sparked, as you can see, a really great conversation. And as we scroll down through, you see obviously David Z, and here is a fun one from our friend Kat, who is there in the chat this evening. Uh, what does Sigmund Freud, Mark Twain, Henry James, a loony from Newcastle, and the Holy Ghost have in common? Um, and so, honestly, if it were me, I would say that they actually knew the truth about Sir Francis Bacon. That was a great contribution. And so, as you can see, we have wonderful contributors. Here's a great one from Tom Burns. Um, and we have, I love what he did here with a an article about Samuel de Champlain, and he crossed off the name Champlain and replaced it with Bacon. As we know, that my research has revealed that Samuel de Champlain was an alias for Sir Francis Bacon. So it's not just about my books and my information. Um, that our group is all about. Uh, Everyone, plays their part. I didn't scroll down far enough to show, we have wonderful contributions from Jason Mercer as well, an amazing Baconian researcher in his own right. And so, what we've done here, we've been compiling, a really dynamic group of thinkers and researchers who all make their contributions. And this group wouldn't be surviving at all if it weren't for the members themselves, constantly, posting really great research and cool finds that, um, like I said, it's one of those things where, um, I don't have the time or the energy to constantly, be posting different finds and different aspects of my research. And I try to use this podcast as a vehicle for that, as well as obviously my books. So, um, to that end, what I really want to do, I want to. This is tonight's about a big thank you to not just the people that I mentioned, but all the members of our group. And when you contribute all of these finds, just these interesting tidbits, or sometimes it's just a really interesting question that someone will post that inspires a great conversation with lots of different views. That's the stuff that, makes for a really successful Facebook group. And like I said, if I were able to, spend more time uh, attending to it, I think that, obviously we would have grown more quickly. But at the end of the day, I'm okay with this sort of slow burn that we're doing, simply because the depth and the richness of the information that all of you have been sharing is just fantastic. So everything from David or Daniel's interview of David, all the way down to sometimes people publish original research, and it's seen here first. So, like I said, I can't thank you all enough. I really appreciate it. And there's my friend Tao kind of summing it up. Yes, they are on their A game for sure. And like I said, as we continue to grow, and really this is my goal. The idea that the more people we have looking at this information, the more people we have studying it, the more eyes we have on it, the more corroboration we get. That means that we're having an effect in the sense that we have people who are scientifically corroborating all of these discoveries. And with each person who does a confirmation or a corroboration of the research, what we're doing is we're contributing to history, the real history, and we are making discoveries every day. So again, can't thank you enough. One of my all-time favorites. Dakota Ring points out Spielberg helped produce The Goonies, where he used 4 matching cipher values. Goonies, 84, 39, 105, 33. The word masonry, well, 105, 33, 84, 39. Great decoder ring. That's very cool. Love it. Yes, Ray, 100%. Quality over quantity, and we do have high quality members in this group, and again, I can't thank you all enough, especially when we have, people who are the hosts of other, podcasts popping in, like tonight, we have, Tom Burns and, Jeff Freeman in the house. That is the number 1 Facebook group, for all things Oak Island. It's the best Oak Island podcast out there, in my opinion, and, to be, in cahoots and amongst, great people like that is really humbling and awe-inspiring, so another great, point Dave Neeson points out, sometimes the slower release of thoughts and finds let the material get chewed on and doing due diligence, and that's what we do, David. Yeah, 100%. And especially, when we're talking about cipher evidence, right? Because I mean, that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, let's be honest. Until they actually take a look at the material itself and digest it and really think about it and look it over. Um, People are skeptical, as well they should be. But once they look at, our, scientifically sound, decryption methodologies, um, anyone who really takes the time to look at it, suddenly they realize that we've all got it right. We're definitely on the right side of history here in terms of real history. Oh, that's great, Linda. You'll have to watch the podcast for our friend David working on that. That would be great. Definitely want to see that. Yeah, decoder. The 4 base ciphers using the Geometrinator web tool. Yeah, there a lot of great stuff. I wish I could remember the name of the channel, where there's a couple of guys who are constantly using that website and putting their information out there. Someone just passed that on me. Hi, Aki. Great to see you. And yes, they are all wonderful human beings here for sure. And you know what, Kat? This is really what it's all about. I love the way you said this: humbling, inspiring, and all caps fun. In Dan Spino's interview with David, that was one of the things that I loved about your interview. You guys, was one of the big takeaways from that interview was when David said, "Look, it's not hard to go from the couch and an armchair sort of speculator to someone who's a full blown theorist. You don't need special training. You don't need to be an expert in any given field. Once you take an interest in it and you really start to dig into the information, that's when you learn. And the more you learn, the more you discover. The more you learn, the more questions that are raised. The more questions that are raised, the more you seek out the information, and then the more you learn. And what you're going to find is that it is fun. There's nothing like it. The experience of the act of discovery is just there's nothing quite like that feeling. So, looking at the comments, yeah, David says, "David who?" And then Kat says, "These are the Daves I know." Kids. Oh, this is great. Yeah, Tom, very true. Seeing the codes and symbols explained, then being able to recognize them in other works has been one of my biggest takeaways. Isn't that true, Tom? I mean, once you see it, and this was actually something a phrase I used in my very first War Room presentation for Oak Island. And it was I said, "Once," because I what I did was I just showed, the painting of a young Sir Francis Bacon by Nicholas Hilliard, or Walter, um, and put it side by side with the double portrait of Francis II and Mary Queen of Scots, and the resemblance is uncanny. And when you look at it, I said, "Once you see it, you can't unsee it." Yes, Z. That's the big thing. And you guys, Z and Tao are both really good about reminding me to make sure you hit like on the podcast and on the post and the message. The more you do that, the more they show up, and the more followers I get here on the podcast, it opens up more opportunities in terms of advertising and those kinds of things. Um, which I'm not quite there yet, but we're getting there, gang. You know, there's almost, as Tao says, there's almost a smugness looking at 98% of people who are blindly living on the wrong side of history. Um, and you know what it is? It's status quo bias, right, Tao? It's this idea of this is just how things are. It's how they're always going to be. And when you see something out of the norm, you place it. Then we engage our confirmation bias, and we impose higher levels of legitimacy, right? You all of a sudden you need to raise the bar in order to convince me. And so there is that for sure. Oh, here we go. Adam Thomas in the house. And let those discoveries roll on. We're all just getting started. And Adam, you're a perfect example of what I was just talking about. You and your dad, what you're doing in terms of getting on board my crazy decoder train, my decryption train here of the transposition ciphers. Um, Gang, I guarantee when I have Adam and his dad on and they show us their latest, people's minds are going to be absolutely blown. The other day, Adam, when I was talking with you on the phone, I couldn't help but get really excited because I know what you guys are onto, and I know what you've uncovered, and I know how it corroborates everything that we've all done. And I couldn't be more excited. And like I said, when you come on it for your big reveal, it's people's minds will be blown. And the best part is, I love the fact, and gang, everyone watching, what Adam and his dad currently are doing with their latest decryption of I think it was the Merchant of Venice, right, Adam? Um, they're documenting everything, and so this is going to be turning into a book that we're all going to want to get our hands on. This is going to be just fantastic information, and I really can't wait. I'm super excited, Adam. Kat says, if you could figure out how tidal pools and bird behaviors can work out ciphers, I'd be a whiz. No doubt, Kat. And hitting the nail on the head as usual, Daniel. Sometimes experts don't have all the answers or have the eye to see what is hidden. And that's the problem, isn't it? When someone's an expert, they already think they know it. When people like us come to information, um, you know, with our eyes wide open and no preconceived notions, we see what's actually really there. And we don't assume that we already know everything there is to know about a given topic. And we're there as students and discoverers. And I think that's why, our community has had so much success. And it's also why I think that we've learned so much about the real history of Oak Island, Nova Scotia, because all of the theorists, we all come at it from very different walks of life. Uh, no one is, an expert in this type of research, and what we do is we just come to it like, well, it, with the mindset of a child wanting to learn and curiosity and let's see things as they really are, as they're there. Yeah, Tommy, the idols of the theater, 100%, my friend. He had the idols of the mind, which, we moderns refer to as cognitive biases, the language I use. Oh, now this is cool, decoder. Uh, the number 11 appears in dialogue ciphers all through the movie. Goonies never say die. 275 reverse cipher, 11 times 25. Truffle shuffle, 66. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, Adam says it was Merchant of Venice. Good. Um, yeah, Tao, he says, "Oh, Jake, you and the Ghost of Bacon team blew our minds many podcasts ago, and we've never been the same since. Can't wait for Adam as dad." You know what? That's just it, Tao. The thing is that um, the more we discover, it just unlocks more and more secrets, and that's really how all of this information works, right? We follow the clues where they lead us, and next thing you know, we've made these discoveries. Once we know, Bacon's true, secret identity, that he was the son of Mary Queen of Scots and Francis II, that just unlocks all kinds of other bits and pieces. So, yeah, Daniel writes, "The Merchant of Venice is a treasure trove of hidden information based on real history. Looking forward." Yeah, isn't that the truth, Daniel? When you read The Merchant of Venice with a critical eye, and you recognize that the writer of the play had a vast amount of knowledge about the law and how courts work, it's so easy to see Francis Bacon's fingerprints all over it. And as Z writes, one must learn every day, which is why Z, your posts are always so informative and wonderful, and why you're such a pivotal member of this group. Oh, thanks, David. David writes, I also give credit to me for allowing those more distant theorists from the Bacon Center to contribute as well. Well, that's just it, David. All of this information, at a certain point, all comes together, right? It's all related. And which is why I think your work is so important when um, we're looking at, the Oak Island mystery, where all of that fiber came from, your work, as far as I'm concerned, just proves it. And so, and like I said, you're going to be very. I think you'll have your vindication for sure this year. And the big thing is that it ties in perfectly with some of my latest and newest discoveries that I haven't announced yet. And originally, I'm just going to announce it here tonight, that I've decided some of the information that I had found, I wasn't going to publish. I wasn't going to go public with it. I didn't think it was appropriate. Um, I even thought at a certain point, I think through my own arrogance, that it would be dangerous. However, I realize that not everyone believes any any of the things I say, so that's fine. My viewership and readership is quite low, and so it really won't hurt anything for me to go ahead and publish, my latest discoveries, and by far they're the most shocking and astounding. And more on that when my Oak Island book comes out later this year. Oh, Aki with a great comment. Aki writes, I jumped up a few levels to look at Bacon as an observer and away from the idols of my own making. Has anyone explored the strength of his faith? I'm seeing holes everywhere. You know what, Aki? That's something that Rachel brought up to me in a message, because John Edwards and I were discussing the ascended master theory in Sir Francis Bacon, and Rachel raised the question that, in his own writings he talks about his faith, and if you are a true Christian, uh, can you believe that you become an ascended master where you actually become a God, not God, not the God, but a God, which is the ascended master theory? And I don't know how to answer that, Aki. I really don't. Um, I'm I see holes in his faith as well. And I know for a fact that Walter Raleigh, his twin brother, uh, definitely, had his own questions of faith. Yeah, I don't think he was a true believer. One of the messages I recently decrypted stated that Walter Raleigh believed that what was it? The seven faiths, or sects, sects, um, invented Satan as a means of control. Um, and I found that to be pretty astonishing. So, hi, Brent. Glad you could join us. Even you're late. And oh, Sandy. Good evening to you. Sandy writes, looking at coordinates of Oak Island, I noticed Oak Island is one of 360 islands on Mahone Bay. Isn't 360 degrees something important to initiates in Freemason? 360 illuminated. Um, Not sure about Freemasonry, but obviously it's the number of degrees in a circle. And I wasn't aware that that was the exact number of islands in Mahone Bay. Learned something new every day. Yes, Penny, you're never too old to learn, and good thing because you and I are getting up there, sis. Yes, Ray, it was Confessions of Faith by Sir Francis Bacon. Rachel wanted to do a show about the Ascended Master Theory. I was going to, and at some point we're going to do this. I'm going to have John Edwards on to talk about the Ascended Master Theory, and then we're going to also compare that with his Confessions of Faith, and see if we can rectify this in some way. Rachel, if you're watching, I'd love to have you on as a guest because you were the one that brought it up in the first place. I just think it's a really cool discussion to have. I know, Z, we are definitely all going to be shocked. Oh, this is interesting, Sandy. Decoder Ring writes, I have noticed the official number of Hawaiian Islands does not match the tally of islands that can be counted on a map. So I think that number of islands can be set to an esoteric number. Wow. And you know what, Decoder Ring, I can't disagree with that because that's what Bacon and Raleigh were doing when they were making maps and encoding them in the first place. The numbers they were using were significant to them and their group. And again, Tao, this is a conversation I just had on the phone with John Edwards today. All of these so-called coincidences are now coming in rapid fire succession, and the way everything is interconnected and overlapping with, I just had a conversation with Scott Clark and James McQuiston. And all the way our information is overlapping with one another now. It's all coming, like I said, rapid fire. It is a very exciting time, and there's no way it's a coincidence. I agree. And again, we're kind of David writes, Sandy, the number of islands in Mahone Bay has always been suspect, but more likely changes with the tidal change and flows. The number is also said to be 365, the number of days in a year. Interesting. Good thoughts, David. Oh, Ray, I didn't realize. Ray is Rachel. Okay. How did I miss that, Ray? Let's see. Tao is saying, Santa created Satan. It's an anagram. Well, the thing is, Claus is also an anagram of Lucas, a name meaning light. So, hmm, you never know, Tal. Yeah, Seiki, one of my favorite quotes from Francis Bacon. He writes, "Truth is the daughter of time, not of authority." And yeah, many artworks of that title. Much is revealed 100%. Yeah, that's just it, Jenny. That's really what Ray was talking about. And so once football season's over and John's no longer attached to the Ravens screen, he'll be on the podcast and we're going to have that as a conversation. And no, Sandy, you guys are awesome. It's like everybody in the chat is awesome, and the kinds of questions and comments I get, and like I said, this is a condensed version of our Facebook group in a very real sense. I mean, most of the people who contribute are here in the chat, and then we have other people also popping in and chiming in with these amazing comments and questions. And so, like I said, I think we have one of the most dynamic and intelligent Facebook groups on the internet because everyone is so engaging. They're so and ask such amazing questions and have wonderful finds that can't say good enough things. Well said, Sandy, for sure. Wow. Let's see. Yeah, I want to throw that up there, David. You know, the history of Oak Island appears to be at many different radiocarbon periods. These theories are chapters of the same book. And you and I have had this conversation too, but one of the things I think that people are going to realize that, and I don't want to toot my own horn, and I'm not blowing smoke here, but when my next book comes out, I think people are going to recognize I have finally, have the missing puzzle piece that connects, all of the players from going back to the Knights Templar to our guys, the Rosie Cross, all the way to Freemasonry, right up until today. And so once that piece gets plugged in and we're able to see this timeline, this continuum, like you said, David, the radiocarbon dating places uh, the activity on the island within those very specific time frames and with the majority of the finds of the artifacts being within around the 1600 range, which is when my guys were operating in the area. Wow, we have lots of new comments. That's just it, Z. She writes, I find new information about Bacon and Raleigh every day, including new books not in their name. Yes. And, that's what Bacon was known for, right? He even writes to King James, intimating to him that James knows that, he's written many things under different names. Tom Burns writes, given the multiple aliases and their places of origin, Bacon would have been familiar with and practiced several religions or variations of them, and perhaps was truly committed to none. Tom, I that's highly plausible, right? I suspect that he was also inducted into the French Order of the Holy Spirit by Henry III while he was there at the age of 16 in the French court, which is actually a Catholic organization. It was Ray, yeah. If people haven't seen this, you need to get over to our Keys of the Rosie Cross and the Ghosts of Bacon Facebook group. Uh, Someone posted an animated AI page from the King James 1611 Bible. It was so cool looking. And Daniel writes, Proverbs 25:2 states, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter." Gematria value of 252 is alignment. Very cool. And a lot of people attribute that particular quote to Bacon, as he said it often. So good one to choose for sure, Daniel. Oh, good question. Um, did you want to discuss the new artwork shown at the top and who did it? Well, I did it, and and let me pull it up here. Let's go all the way up to the top. And so, as you can see, we have obviously Bacon surrounded by books. The handle of the key is a B, and the teeth of the key is in the shape of an F. His initials. Over here we have a great ship, which he had sailed oftentimes, and a lot of people don't know that Bacon was a ship's captain under various names. We, of course, have the roses, and their symbolism here as a part of the Rosi cross. In the upper right, we have this moon that actually comes from the portrait, as I said, of Sir Walter Raleigh, and it was a key piece of evidence in a part of my Oak Island research. And so I was able to I was able to create the center piece using an AI program, and the rest of it I opened up in Photoshop, and it was able to generate the rest. So I thought it was kind of cool. Z writes, I'm reading Don Quixote up to page 88. It's funny. Don Quixote is absolutely hilarious. And, yeah, I know that you have to get past the old timey writing and stuff, but once you get past that and you realize what's going on, it's really hilarious. Oh my God. Sandy writes, I was watching the show Russian Doll, and she said, life is like a box of timelines. Oh, Kat, I'm gonna throw this up here. Um, discovered yesterday, so you went on the Oak Island tour. Good for you. It's wonderful. That the indigenous site they're restricted from dates to 450 BCE. Yeah. And you're not wrong. Kat also writes, I was thinking, Tom, that perhaps the indigenous spirituality may have influenced him. Not only indigenous people's spirituality, but also you're going to discover when I start rolling out all of my newest research, he was deeply influenced by Druidic spiritualism, the spiritual beliefs of the Druids. I was kind of shocked to make that discovery. Oh, David, that's a great thought. Um, Perhaps the evolution of a scientific methodology to deduce which faith was most fulfilling. That's a possibility. Now, openly, what Bacon said was that the purpose he wanted to see the perfect blending of science and religion. He really believed that by using science to study nature or creation, if you will, you could come to understand the mind of the creator. In other words, understand God. And so, um, again, he was looking for the idea that there is obviously a form to this creation that indicates intelligent design and therefore God. So his stated purpose was to prove the existence of God. And Tao is writing, here's the problem with all of this. Given the people, Bacon and others who hide everything from the reaches of the power structures back then, that's one of two. Let's see. It'll be a massive blow of the royals got their hands on Bacon's treasure in the Ark of the Covenant, menorah, and other sacred artifacts were all returned to Israel. Hashtag just saying. Well, I'll have more to say about some of those things here in a future episode, but I'm not going to say you're wrong, Town, that's for sure. And Z wrote, Bacon portrayed many religious men of various religions. He sure did. He certainly did. I agree, but it was supposed to be brown, and I don't know why it turned out so red. Thanks. Thanks, Dan. Um, oh, if the Royals got their hands on it. Yeah. Dakota Ring says officially Hawaii has 137 islands, which, by the way, is the 33rd prime number. An actual tallies are 140 plus, more or less, is 137 esoteric. It's 90 plus 40 plus G. Yes, and that is what it is. But also, like I said, 33rd prime number for sure. Brent writes, Drew, it's not surprised. Goes with some native. Absolutely. Cat. A witch. A witch. Burn her. Yes. Let's start quoting um, Holy Grail again. I have to reprise that episode. Um, yeah, Tom McMack have been in the Maritimes for thousands of years, for sure. Z writes that she believes, or that she thinks that Bacon believed in divinity, but it was in many forms. Yeah, possibility, for sure. Jenny writes, I've often wondered about reality's relationship to God. A lot of the descriptions of God also describe reality. Funny how that works. It's also the esoteric belief of as above, so below, the microcosm coming from the macrocosm, and microcosm being a reflection of macrocosm. And who's to say that it doesn't inform the macrocosm? That is the esoteric belief. It's a two-way street. Oh, cool, Aki. That's a cool discovery. David has a question for Z. Did Bacon portray these religious men or morphed them to what he wanted to have them reflect? That's a great question, David. I would say it's probably a combination of both, knowing him and having seen what he's done. Tao. Let's see. Yeah, that's true, Aki. I mean, again, he writes, if the Romans didn't give us the roads and aqueducts, it's a fine line. Well, all of these discoveries, gang, this is what, Bacon really wanted to do. He recognized in his own time period that the height of civilization had been ancient Egypt, and then ancient Greece, and then ancient Rome, and everything had deteriorated after that. And what he was hoping to do in the Renaissance was to renew this knowledge that had been lost to the ancients. And so um, there's that. So been going on. Well, we're almost at an hour, gang. So what I would like to do is, if you could please, as a member of our group, Keys of the Rosi Crosse and the Ghosts of Bacon, um, if you have a friend that shares an interest in certain kinds of things, such as spies, privateers, pirates, any of those kinds of things, then send them our way. Invite them to join our group. Like I said, the more people that we have involved, the more of these. I just showed you a handful of amazing posts that were just right at the top of the stream this evening. As you scroll down, they're just more and more and more. It just never ends, and so it's just a wonderful marketplace of ideas that when you join and then you start contributing, it's only going to get better. So if you're not a member, please join. And if you have friends that you think would be interested, please invite them. And the more, the merrier. And as many of the members said earlier, um, it's not just people who are interested in Sir Francis Bacon, Sir Walter Raleigh, and all of that sort of stuff. We really have members of the group who have just a wide variety of interests, and they all contribute because, like I said, the thing is, like I was saying to David, when it all comes together, we find that we have far more overlap, and there's a lot more interconnectedness between all of these ideas than we would have thought. Daniel Spino writes, one would think that if Bacon and friends spent any amount of time on Oak Island, they would have had some peaceful agreement with the surrounding Mi'kmaq tribes, or they would be afraid to come. Well, one thing I know for certain, Daniel, that one of the things that Bacon always advocated was, peaceful coexistence with natives. He saw them as allies. Now, as Champlain, he allied himself with the Huron, and set up an amazing trade system when it comes to furs and beaver pelts. As Thomas Harriot, he also had the same exact philosophy of reaching out and becoming an ally of the local Native Americans. And so, you know, he had a very open mind when it came to indigenous peoples, and he always saw them as as allies. And then if he saw that he could create an ally by going to war with a different tribe, well, that's what he did with the Mohawk, right? So great observation. Very true. He writes, New Atlantis was the vision. The idea was, yes, a new Jerusalem here in the Americas. And that's exactly what they went about trying to construct. Hi, Carolyn. Glad you could join us. Thanks, Penn. You too. I'll talk to you soon. And Karen, well, no, thank you for joining us. This is free to all. Please feel free to pop in anytime. Make sure you search out our Facebook group. If you're not already a member, join. Yeah, Z. He learned many Native American languages very quickly. We know that he was as a polymath, and he spoke multiple languages fluently. And I love this question, Arwen. Quick question: have you noticed the new craze of 6'7"? Well, let's see. We have a house with a couple of teenagers in it, and it's all we ever hear. So um, it hasn't gone unnoticed by me at all. 67, of course, being the value of the name Francis. David asks, wouldn't Bacon Champlain be able to prove his allegiance with the Templars, thus earning their trust through that linkage? Well, here's the problem. All of my research, people have always asked me, what's the link between the Rosi Cross and the Knights Templar, who wore a Rosi Cross emblazoned on their chests. Well, the fact is, the only connection that I've been able to find in all of my research and all of these messages and in the cryptanalysis, the only connection between these two groups, believe it or not, happened on Oak Island. And I'm going to leave that as a teaser. That's all I'm going to give you. But when it comes to inheriting, knowledge and you know what, that's not exactly true, because I know that James McQuiston can actually name lineages, family lineages that trace back from the Knights Templar all the way to the very first initiates, the first 3 speculative Freemasons ever recorded. So there could be family connections, but as far as I know, in terms of my research, the only connection I've ever seen in terms of secret knowledge that they shared happened on Oak Island, Nova Scotia. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate you showing up. Yeah, Daniel, the flag of St. George was a white flag background with a red cross on it. Obviously, the cross was not a Knights Templar cross, but it was a red cross, 100%. Arwen, I can't wait to see the appropriate memes for sure. Thanks, Brent. I meant that for being a good tease. And that's exactly it, Tom. He writes exactly. They both knew of Oak Island, doesn't mean they collaborated. Here's what my research has shown me so far. And this is something that I've shared with the relevant people who need to know this, and our friends in the Northern Atlantic. The Knights Templar were obviously, a lot of other researchers have documented the ways that the Knights Templar had interacted with the Vikings, for example. And so basically the Vikings relayed to the Templars how to navigate across the Northern Atlantic, and they followed the same routes and therefore would end up in the same locations, right? If you're following the same routes, logically you have to end up in the same place. Well, I believe that Bacon and through Dee and Raleigh, that they also had shared the same exact amount of knowledge and those same routes, following them, which basically led my friend Bill Smith and I last fall. We went to one of those locations where I knew them to have gone, and he knew that where they had gone. And we arrived there. Well, I don't think I've announced this on the show before. Maybe I have. But when we were there, we basically found an old Viking settlement complete with a burial mound in Newfoundland. It's south of Lands Meadows. And so we'll be turning that research over to the provincial government here later this year. Dakota Ring writes, I always felt the trade of beaver pelts during the colonial years was an artificial way to involve and interest the native people in some type of economic activity with the colonial people. It had that effect on it, yeah, but James McQuiston has basically laid out how much money was involved in the beaver pelt trade. It was highly lucrative. These pelts were so prized in Europe that it was, a shipload of beaver pelts. If a privateer caught wind that they were coming across, they wanted them. That was a lot of money back then. So, good observation. Oh, you just got it today. As you can see over my shoulder here, I have his book out, Masonic Conspiracy. It was the one just before his Mary Queen of Scots book. And so that one is next on my radar there, Ray, because gang, Adam just wrote, I was just about to say the same exact words. Adam writes, James' work's incredible. When you sit down and you have a conversation with Jim McQuiston, and I plan on getting him on the podcast here soon. He and I have become good friends, and when you sit next to this guy, and you realize very quickly you're sitting next to a human encyclopedia of historical knowledge. On top of that, what James is above all else is a great storyteller. And so when he all of a sudden starts weaving together, family lineages and the connections and connections through Freemasonry and those kinds of things, it's just riveting. And so at some point, I want to have him on and he can talk about Mary Queen of Scots, because his books and he's the most prolific writer about the topic of Oak Island. He's written 10 books now. I think it's 10 on Oak Island, and they're all, when you accumulate them and put them all together, he has a huge piece, several pieces of the puzzle of what happened there, I think. But if Bacon went to bury his stuff on Oak Island, was it not to be near the Templar items? And wouldn't Bacon be able to communicate similar beliefs as mentioned by Templars or those who managed Oak Island? When he got there, I'll say this much, Dave, and then I got to shut up. Because you're right. But Raleigh made a discovery on Oak Island. He didn't know how to solve it. He contacted Bacon. Bacon went there and he saw a code carved into a rock. My interpretation of this, the remnants of this are what people call the HO stone. Those of you who don't know, on Oak Island, there was a stone that was completely covered with a coded message. And it was a giant boulder somewhere on the northern shore, along the northern shore, on the northern edge of the western drumlin, we suspect. And so searchers one day said, well, this is a really important boulder. I bet there's something under it. So instead of moving it or recording the messages that were on it, they blew it up with dynamite to see what was underneath it so they could dig. And it was completely destroyed. Bacon states that he read a coded message carved onto a rock, and he basically referenced it as a Templar message. It led him to a tunnel whereby he was able to enter and help out Raleigh. And so when you said, David, those who managed Oak Island, I don't think they managed it. I think that the Templars used it as a part of their roots. Jim McQuiston has demonstrated how Oak Island would be a logical place because there's a deep channel that runs right alongside Oak Island that goes right to Gold River. Because obviously in old times, when that was dry land, the river channel would have gone right past where Oak Island is now. So it creates a deeper channel, right? And so now with the higher water in the oceans, suddenly this becomes a navigable channel that leads right up to right next to Oak Island. And if you were going to be extracting gold from Gold River, hence the name, it would be the perfect place to stop. So the Templars used it and they left it. And then along comes Bacon and Raleigh. Wow, Sandy, I hadn't heard that. Yeah, Daniel, you're right. He writes, there's evidence of trade between Europeans and indigenous people on Oak Island covering a large segment of time. Very true. Jenny, I don't really understand what you're with the seal barking. Oh, in the background? I think that's the washing machine right behind me. Tom's absolute location, location, location. Good spot is a good spot. And yes, they knew it was a good spot for sure. Yeah, beaver pelt harvesting was decimated in Russia, and the New World brought new opportunities, and it was lucrative for sure. And also between those very specific parallels that James McQuiston has pointed out, because you go too far north and there are no more beaver, but you go too far south, they don't have thick coats. Uh Thanks, Ray. Yeah, he told me that, but I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm going to finish the Masonic conspiracy first before I grab that, because I tend to get distracted by shiny objects. So thanks for mentioning that. And Barbara writes, one could argue the whole island was, quote, sanctified. Uh, yeah, David has a lot to say about that in his work. And the way it was sanctified, according to David Neeson, who's in the chat here, was through the use of date palm fiber, which I think is just a brilliant observation and interpretation. Yeah, David, 13 books. Yep, that's right. James has written. Yeah, Decoder Ring. It's a new Viking settlement. Yes, it is. And I was standing on the burial mound. It's really quite astonishing. But we have friends over there who are prospectors, and they obtained the mineral rights, so that if when we go back, we're going to be able to do some lidar work and ground penetrating radar and that sort of stuff. And once we collect all the data, we can just turn it over. Yeah, Icky Bacon and the Templars shared an understanding of the depths and levels required to ensure safe harboring of the most poignant ancient truths of mankind. Oh boy, truer words never spoken. And when you read my next work, you're going to see why I say it that way. The washing machine needs a fish, and Adam, that noise is a ghost of bacon. Yeah. Usually it's like when I start this, I shut it off. I totally forgot. Yeah, Decoder Ring says, thanks, David. The additional historical context about beaver pelt trade in Russia. That's huge. That's a big part of it. It does have a hacking cough, Jenny, for sure. Yep. So, listen, gang, we've gone over an hour, and all I can say is thank you all very much for showing up and hanging out with time. And these are the shows that I enjoy the most, when people are so interactive in the chat, asking great questions, making great observations. But it's just like I said, it's a condensed version of what we do in our Facebook group, the Keys of the Rosi Cross. So I'm going to ask you, invite your friends that would be interested in what we do. Um, Hit that like button here on YouTube, and as we grow and get more people involved, right now we're up to, gosh, how many people? We have myself, but we have Adam and Francis Thomas. We have Z Zantlo. We have Jason Mercer. We have William Russell, John Edwards. Um, we have uh, Kurtwood Bixson. So many people who are and others that I can't bring to mind right now. David, of course, with your research, coming from a completely different angle, but it still informs our work. Um, we have all this collaboration, but it's all also cooperation, and that's what we need for the scientific method repeatability, and that's what we're getting. And the more people we get on board, the more of that we accrue, and it does nothing but lends credibility and legitimacy to everything that we're doing, and the truth is going to win the day. So until next time, gang, I'm wrapping things up, and I thank you very much. And I'm going to put that one up there, David, because I'm not going to lie. It would be uh, very appreciated. Yes, definitely. All right, gang. Yes, thank you, Tom. You too. Until next time, we're going to in a couple of weeks. Adam, depends on how far you guys get along with your documentation, but I do have other uh, things in the hopper here. We're going to be running a list of guests here coming up fairly soon that I think you're all going to really enjoy. Um, I'm going to be, as I continue to work on my book, I'll be returning to some of my um, Oak Island information as well. I know people enjoy that part of it. It's popular because people love the show. I love the show. I love the people on it. Um, and so that's what's coming up. So until next time, like I said, hit that like button and make sure you try to do some recruiting for our Facebook group, the whole Keys of the Rosi Crosse. Till next time, gang, take care and see you next time.